Hi, this is Craig Severance from the Zero Energy channel. Come join us as we work to address the challenge of moving toward a world with zero energy from fossil fuels.
Those of you who saw our recycled lumberyard video may remember the day we found this beautiful recycled door with this stained glass pattern already set in it. And of course, having purchased this door with the stained glass, we moved heaven and earth to get it to work with our tiny house design and to find out a way to install this in our tiny house. So this is the video showing how we managed to cut this door to the proper height and to create a framework for it to pre-hang the door and to install it in our tiny house. Because finding a beautiful door, you have to make it work, and we've made it work.
Our door is this beautiful recycled door we got from that has stained glass in it from the recycled lumberyard, but of course it is not a pre-hung door. We've been advised that we should build a pre-hung framework for it before we try, not just put it directly in the rough opening. We have a 28-inch wide door, which we've also, if you look it up, it's basically the rough opening for doors are supposed to be about 2 inches wider than the door width, so this is a 30-inch wide rough opening. We have to cut the door to the height. We have 6'2" ceilings from the floor to the ceiling here, so this door, of course, like any door we would get, is too tall and we're going to have to cut it. It's a solid door, so we should be able to do that. We're starting here by doing the flashing around the rough opening, similar exactly like we would with a window. Here we've cut back the Tyvek 1.5 inches from all sides of the rough opening, except at the top there's actually the flap there that getting the top out of the way. Just like the windows, we're beginning with a piece of flashing tape that is about 3 inches on either side of the rough opening and flush with the bottom of the rough opening. That's the first piece. Then the next piece up is overlapping that bottom one, and it comes up into the rough opening about 1.5 inches and overlaps about 1.5 inches, and you're going on each side, and you first apply it this way, then you have to fold it down into the rough opening by cutting the corners. So the next piece of flashing tape is we're bringing up about 6 inches from the bottom on each side and folding it down and bringing it across, and it's the same on the other side. And we've overlapped it so that it'll be about 1.5 inches into the rough opening and 1.5 inches out. And of course, to turn that corner, you have to cut that corner a little and before you can start folding these flaps down. Okay, so there is a product out there that actually stretches around the corner. I don't have any of it, but that'd be nice. I just made a straight cut, and I don't do it all the way to the corner because the little black material that's underneath this does stretch a little bit, so I took advantage of that, and it stretches around the corner. So I left about 1/2 inch before I got to the corner, and it stretched. You can see that right there, the black material underneath, which is what also stretched around the corner. I'm also going to put a little scrap there in the corner to cover this before I go further. And I completed the sill pan area here at the bottom of the door frame by another folded one inside the rough opening across the bottom and flush to the inside and overlapping the outer piece here. And they call that the sill pan we've created. Water gets in there, it's going to hit that aluminum and hopefully just run out. And then we're going to come up the sides. Well, you can see that we've put that flashing tape on the sides now on each side, and it ends just underneath the flap of Tyvek. It is flush with the edge of the rough opening, didn't lap into the rough opening. Then it ends at the bottom, just where the overlapping that bottom tape. We're not done. I'm probably being overly cautious here, but and this flashing tape isn't cheap, but I'm going to go ahead and do the full length of the sides. I stopped at the top corner, didn't try to go around it, no real reason to do that, and then I put it in about an inch or inch and a half, and then the flap, and I'm just going to fold that over, and then we're going to finish with the interior tape. And I'm over at the bottom, I'm just doing, not going all the way down to the corner, just overlapping the sill pan by about 3 to 4 inches. So there, I've covered the whole rough opening lumber with aluminum, and that just for my own comfort on having enough water protection there in that opening. I'm going to do that on the other side, and then we're going to do the top. So now here at the top, we're doing the overlap here at the top. We're going to cut those corners and fold that overlap into the rough opening door frame, and then do the all the way to the seal on the inside, and then we'll come up here. Okay, so now I have my aluminum all the way on 4 sides, completely covering the rough opening lumber. So if any water does come in that doorway, around that doorway, get driven in there by the wind and such, we're protecting the rough opening lumber from rotting. So now we have our rough opening protected from moisture. We have to switch to trying to build a pre-hung door framework around this recycled door with the stained glass. Well, I would have been able to save about 50 bucks if I'd been able to use these recycled door framing materials from the recycled lumberyard, but the hinges are in the wrong spot. They're not at the right spacing compared to what my door has, and the same for the door holes, and so nothing's really going to match either. So I went and bought the newer stuff, the new jam set, and I'm going to begin by cutting the threshold at the width, the interior width of this framework. So I measured this on the back side to be exactly 1/4 inches wider than my antique door, which allows an 1/8 inch on each side for the weather stripping and a little freedom of movement to open and close. So I'm going to cut it there. So that's going to be it's going to fit into that jam framework you'll see in just a minute. Because to me the critical dimension is the door, and having it fit tightly into this framework. I almost started by measuring the rough opening and trying to subtract from it, but that didn't seem to make sense enough. I might not get it right for having the door fit tightly into this frame with just the right spacing. So I started the other direction and put this threshold up against the door and drew that first line, and then went over 1/4 inch. Okay, so this is the bottom of the side jam, and you can see that's actually sloped there, a slight slope. You say, why? What's that doing? Well, look at this. There's a slope here. So this direction's inside, and that's outside. So if I put this on here, you'll note I put this on to the outside, facing outside. See, there's wood on these thresholds, so you can screw into it. Look at there. It actually matches the slope of the threshold. I had to push that weather stripping up a little bit with my nail punch because it's actually longer than the whole piece of wood. I'm kind of sloppy manufacturer there, but you can push and they slide. And so now I'm just going to screw through on each side here and get these set as my width of this, based upon the threshold width, which was taken off the door width. So I think I'm doing this right. Hope so. Okay, that last picture was slightly off because if you put it too far forward like I had it in the last picture, like there, it's not flush on the bottom, so you have to scoot it back a little, make it flush, and then of course that's going to be in the right position. You say, what's the right position? Well, it's when it's flush, obviously. So that leaves exactly as much room for that weather stripping to come back down a little bit flush, so we'll do that. That can be pushed around, so I'm going to go ahead and screw this together and push that weather strip back down, and we'll have the threshold installed. So working with a 72¼ inch rough opening, I'm going to make these side pieces from their very bottom on the side of the threshold there to their very top to be 72, leaving a 1/4 inch to play with. Not much, but I want to get as much height of the door as I can. Then we'll fit in the top piece and see how much room is left for the door. And we'll cut the door the right height there. You'll notice that after you cut off the height that was there, which has these notches at the top for the little 2-inch wide stops, you don't have that notch anymore, so you're going to have to bring it in. You're going to have to create a notch for your new height of your side jambs, so that top piece comes in properly. Because right now what's happening without the notches is it pushes it further wider, and you have this wonderful gap up here. So we have to cut off that notch there of the stop to allow that to come in properly. So we'll have to do that now. So you can see now that we've put the notches there, it's fitting right. So that we use a little chisel to get this and better. It's not real good. So, but it is the right dimensions. Okay, we were trying to figure out where to stand this up and work on it while we shove it around and get the corner square. Well, the door frame's a pretty good place to keep it from falling over. So we're not installing it yet, but we're just using it here, getting it square, and we put these braces on here on the outside edge. That outside edge is going to get covered up with the brick moldings for sure. We're fine on screwing into that. Okay, so now we get to a moment of truth here at like tiny house door trauma. You have to cut your door to fit the height. So we've measured the size of the opening that's left inside that jamb, and it's 70 1/8 inch from the threshold to the inside of the top jamb. So cutting off, giving us an 1/8 inch on each top and bottom here. I'm cutting this down the height of this door to 69 7/8. It's a solid wood door. We're going to take it all off the bottom, and we have one of those nice weather strips that'll fit on the bottom anyway and hide any rough cut. But this is traumatic when you cut a beautiful door. So just hope that we've got it squarely marked, and it's going to cut it. Now I took this out of its package, and I'm realizing this bottom of the door weather stripping is going to add not the 1/8 I was thinking, but more of like a 1/4. So gonna go ahead and take another 1/8 inch off the height so we have room for this sweep at the bottom. Well, we set the door in there with the measurements I had, but it was so tight at top to bottom that it didn't even have a 16 inch clearance at the top. It fit, but it was so tight I'm going to take another 1/8 inch off. Cutting the height of the door is going to be a little tricky. The key is you want your bottom threshold weather stripping to actually touch the threshold and not hang out in the middle of the air, letting air underneath. So that's a pretty precise measurement. And you also want just enough of a gap at the top to allow the door to close and have perhaps some weather stripping up there, but not a big air gap letting air through. So it's better to err on the side of cutting the door a little too long at first
and which will obviously it won't close right, and it won't close at all sometimes if it's too big, than to cut it too short and you can't do anything about it then. So I cut mine 3 times. Each was from the bottom, and it's covered with that weather stripping so it doesn't show, but I wanted that weather stripping to work. So it's probably best to build your pre-hung framework first at the dimension that fits inside your roof opening nicely, and then measure from the top, from the bottom of the pop to the top of the threshold, and then subtract some, maybe 1/8 to 1/4 for the top gap and whatever you think that bottom threshold is going to use. But don't subtract too much, you could make your door too short and let all kinds of air in. So you'll get it right.
Okay, so here we're getting our door into its frame that we made, and it fits, and we're figuring out where the hinges have to be. You can see we're marking there on the side. We have to shove it around just a tiny little bit because it was a little tilted, but we put it over to where the hinge, when you attach the hinges as to the right side here as you look at it from the inside, it was nicely lined up on all the edges. We have enough room at the bottom and top. Of course, this door, since we changed its height, is going to always look real strange where the doorknob is. So I think I put the deadbolt there and talked to a locksmith about where the actual door knob can go. Okay, so now now that we know that it fits, we took the hinges apart and put the side that goes on the frame on the frame. Now we're going to try to fit it in the door frame and see if the door will open and close, and then we'll try to stand it up and see if it opens and closes. We put the pins in. Now Eric's going to demonstrate if this opens and closes. So close it. See if it goes down into the frame okay. Ooh, that was nice and smooth. No binding, right?
No binding.
Great. Okay. Open it. See if it'll open just fine. All right. And it's on its hinges. All right. Next thing, we have to stand it up and put a level on it, make it plumb, and see if it still opens and closes fine. If it does that, then I think we're okay to try to set it. Well, sometimes you just try something to see if you can get away with not doing something you don't want to do, and it doesn't work. What I didn't want to do was have to chisel out the inset for the hinges, but the door's just not closing right. I think these hinges are made to be inset on not just the door, but also the frame, and I don't think I can get away with not doing it. The key to chiseling, this seems to be working, is first I took a small chisel and went all the way around the perimeter of this, including on the face on this side, for the depth on this side, and then the perimeter here, and chiseled out to the depth on this side, how far I wanted first, and then came at it from this direction with a broader chisel, and it hits where I've already chiseled on the perimeter and just stops. So that seems to be working pretty well. I'm going to try insetting these and see how the door fits. See, this is exactly what I'm talking about with the chiseling. First I chiseled around the edges down to the depth I wanted, and now I'm coming sideways across the grain. And all I did was go sideways, and this perfect chip is coming out of here. See, so that's the advantage of chiseling out the perimeter first. So, trying this method, and we're going to see if we can get this door to sit right. When I tried to close it, it was giving me a lot of tension, and I tried to finally figure out where the tension was coming from. It wasn't from the weather stripping, it was from the hinges. Just kind of springing back off the hinges. It would close, but it's not supposed to spring back off the hinges like that, so that's why I'm chiseling these in. So we're putting it in the doorway now, and first we plumbed it up, and these the molding goes over here flush with the wall surface, covers that gap, and so we made this outer edge here flush, and that's plumb up and down that way, and we made these plumb up and down left and right, and door closes and opens just fine. The only problem is we have a lot of this wet stripping, and it's getting each other's way down here, and it doesn't really want to quite close all the way. We're probably going to have to trim back that bottom piece a little away from the framework there, so it'll close all the way there without having to be pushed on so much. But that's just a little trimming of the weather stripping. But I think we've got this, so we're going to go ahead and set the screws in and call it a day. And then tomorrow we'll try to get at least, I think, the deadbolt lock into there. Okay, so here's our beautiful stained glass door several months later. It's been in good use for these several months, and it's working great. We could see the white, they call it brick molding, that I picked. That you could pick that up at the lumberyard too as a package. Of course, we have to cut it to the right width and length. Given the lowered height of this door and how the knobs holes were, the deadbolt lock is way down there. That's where the existing hole was. I hired a locksmith to put the entry way in, because you can see how incredibly close that is to the glass, and I wasn't going to mess with that. He did a really nice job. Found a real thin one and put it in without breaking the glass. So we're really enjoying the stained glass door, and hopefully that when you find a beautiful door, you can make it work for your house as well. You may also remember from the recycled lumberyard, we had extra panes of this exact same design, and we took one of the panes to a local stained glass artist who took it apart piece by piece and reassembled it to fit in our gable of our east loft at a smaller size, but the ratios are there, the design is there, and you can't really see through our existing door very well, but there it is. There's the door, and up here in the loft we have the gable window that matches the door, and it's beautiful. These are face east, and the beveled glass, you can see, acts as a prism, and we get rainbow patterns all over the tiny house every morning when the morning sun comes in. So this was definitely worth it to do the recycled door installation.
Hello, my name is Eric. If you like this video, give us a thumbs up down below. Also, if you want to subscribe, that's good too. Join us on the Zero Energy channel.